What? Did just Trump win the US election? Oh my god, crazy. This is the average Indian reaction to the Donald Trump's US election victory. And what explain India's positive reaction to Donald J. Trump's victory? In this video we will explore. So welcome to the Tushar Gandhi show. In this show we analyze the great the great events of foreign policy, and in this video we will see what explains Donald Trump's victory in the US elections, and how did India in a way reacted to it. So firstly, that not just Indians, even the US academicians and pollsters never imagined Trump to win with that sort of margin, and most of the people were like Harris is leading and Harris will win. Most of these media people were ideologically inclined towards the left, and there were some academicians who presented their model, namely Lichman, who argued he predicted rightly, I guess 10 out of 12 times that US will win, something like that, with a lot of accuracy he presented, but this time he failed. And even as far as I'm concerned, I was like more like either this will win or that will win. So I was also more like 50-50. It would be a very close call, and 80% of the people were like that, and those other 20% they had a zero clue about who will win. So clearly this is a shocking election outcome, and what really explained this outcome is firstly you have to look at the supporters of Kamala Harris versus Donald J. Trump. Trump supporters are mainly those who are just fed up of Biden policy. He is literally not encouraging those high net individuals to focus on new technologies, for example cryptocurrencies, AI driven growth, and spaceships and all. That is why these high net individuals, let me mention you that most of the entrepreneur class support Kamala Harris, but now Kamala Harris wanted to tax the windfall profits that these high net individuals accrue as far from their from their earning from keeping the stocks for the long time, which is to my mind quite wrong, because what if they did not earn profits, and what if they experience a windfall losses? Who will then support them? So her argument was ki if you have lots of profits, will tax, and if you have lots of losses, will not help you. That is your problem. So this is completely a bullshit, and American audience, American people has largely rejected this sort of economic policy. Largely she was a manipulator. Many Americans told me that she is a manipulator. I asked them why. They said that she is not giving us evidences, but she is claiming that most of the high net worth individuals doesn't pay tax. That is not true. If you look at top 10% of the people, those 20% of the people pay most of the taxes. More than 60% of the taxes has been paid by less than 10% of the people. There are sort of explanation like this. And secondly, you have to just see that if entrepreneur has lots of wealth that has been supported by Donald J. Trump, and if the government has lots of money by way of tax, that policy has been supported by Kamala Harris and Biden. What do you think? Who will do the best of their money? So clearly, Biden and Harris would definitely put their money into the Zelensky's hand, which is not acceptable to American people. American people are more like, we need money, we need to control our inflation, we need to control, our prices. We don't give a fuck about, Zelensky and all. We want to, focus on our borders and all. Definitely we want stable outside world that is conducive to American domestic growth, but we definitely don't want to play larger than life figure as far as this war is concerned. That is their argument, American people argument, that has been reflected in the election. So clearly, traditional issues like inflation, immigration, and these sort of issues played a dominant factor than abortion rights and women rights, all those things. So as a political science student or as an international relations student, one thing is pretty much clear, that we have to come up with 2 or 3 dominant independent factors that really influence the dependent factor. In this case, US election results is the dependent variable, and independent variables are, there's immigration issues, these largely domestic issues, and then international issues, war and all, and then economic issues. And I tried to make a model which is I called LSE model, which looks at 3 important variables: the leadership, the stability, and the economy. And I further divided them into 2 levels, which is one in domestic level, and then another one is international structure level. And within that, I had identified 18 variables, and I gave them I scored both Trump and Harris within this framework, and my analysis largely predicted that there would be very close competition between the two. But clearly we saw Donald J. Trump won the election. What explained this? Maybe because they follow a different electoral system in which popularity vote plays a factor, but not that much. Their constituency and each state and their each state plays a dominant factor. Clearly, political scientists and international relation experts need to revisit their model and need to correct their model. Particularly, I find Lichman's model, where he presented 13 factors, and he said these 13 factors play a dominant role. I would say if you come up with so many factors, then I would say your model is not compatible, because you cannot come up with lots of variable. There has to be 3 or 4 or 5, to my mind, largely independent factor, which can be classified and subcategorized under so many variables. That can be done because it's a US election and not not just a small countries or a university election. Okay, so so many factors play a dominant role. So as an Indian, what is my reaction to it? I would say that Indians are quite happy about Donald J. Trump's victory, precisely because Trump is going to pivot to Asia and he is not going to give his attention to Zelensky. Clearly, he is more interested in countering China's economic threat. One major point where me and my professor disagreed, he says, Professor Rajgopalan clearly makes an argument that he is against the de-securitization of Quad. Basically, he is saying that Quad should focus more on security aspects rather than de-securitization. Well, I disagree to that argument. My argument is Quad should focus on economic threat coming out from China, and Quad can focus on security aspects, but Quad is not supposed to ignore the economic threats and should not ignore the power of economic diplomacy. and precise reason is, if you can, stop the growth rate of China, that will largely frustrate the domestic factors, and as far as China is concerned. So you will see more frustrated Chinese, that those who are going to revolt against the Chinese government, and in that way, if we see Chinese economy collapsed, Chinese society collapsed, we'll see that India would not be having that much of a trouble with China as far as border disputes are concerned. So clearly we should focus on economic aspects. United States, India, Australia, Japan should focus on how to counter Chinese economy rather than Chinese political leadership. So clearly India needs to prepare itself to deal with the more transactional America. India should be prepared to deal with Trump, who is isolationist, who doesn't focus on alliances. He would not be pro India, he would be pro America. He would work with India where its national interest largely coincide with India's national interest, and India would also focus on that aspect. So India would also work with allies like Russia and all. So clearly now it would be less problematic for India to deal with international relations, but definitely there would be problems as far as tariffs are concerned. You remember Donald Trump told us that India is a tariff king and all sorts of things. So clearly lots of development, and as an Indian, I'm happy that Trump came. I wasn't happy with Harris because her chemistry with Prime Minister Modi and External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar is not that positive. There is an awkward moment between them, and they both are awkward with each other. That sucks as an Indian. So, but as far as Trump is concerned, Trump and Modi chemistry is quite visible. They both admire each other. They both respect each other's personal space. They don't engage in each other's domestic policies. So you might see more assertive Prime Minister Modi from now onwards, because US President is not going to make him accountable as far as his domestic policies are concerned. President Biden was more into India's religious policies. He used to make India uncomfortable with those sort of conversation. He used to tell India what is right, what is wrong. But Donald Trump would focus on how America can get benefits from India, how America can sell its products to India. Those sorts of traditional issues, traditional diplomacy would play a larger role. And my final assessment would be that from now onwards, classical realism and neoclassical realism will play a major role rather than neorealism, which focus on international structures. And this classical realism and neoclassical realism gives its emphasis to human nature of politics, and neoclassical gives its focus to domestic nature of international politics. Right, domestic factors influence international relations. So this would be my final suggestion. And I would say that as an Indian, one can look at cryptocurrencies, one can look at golds and all sorts of things. And that would be the end of this session. Thank you very much for keeping in touch with me and watching this video. If you like this video, stay in touch, and yeah, thank you very much guys. Thank you.